Okay, so hello again, and indeed our guest is in place now, Mr. Ken Okolugbo, Public Affairs Analyst, and he also works with the Senate President. In fact, I think he's the spokesperson. Good morning to you, Ken.
Morning, Uncle Yori. Sorry, apologies for my not being in the studio on time. You know, today is a public holiday, and I was already hoping to enjoy it today.
You forgot. But, well, people like you are you never observe public holidays, you know, like the fire service, like the police, and like other essential workers. And that's part of what we're talking about, you know, the condition, the working condition of Nigeria's workers. Labor is still not happy with it. Let me ask you, how do you look at that? Labor is, for instance, it has said that, you know, the minimum wage, it is barely being paid, that many states have not even have only added maybe perhaps 5,000 onto the increase. Don't forget that we're coming from 35,000 until this 70,000 was agreed. But Labor is saying that it's not working at all, and that some are actually poorer after this whole adjustments with taxation and all of that than we were before. Do you think Labor is overstating the case, or do you think Labor got it spot on?
No, I don't think Labor is overstating the case. Let the truth be told. While we can give it to the government of President Bola Tinubu for the increment, at least the federal government has started almost immediately to start implementing the difference. It was generally 30,000, it wasn't 35,000, so it was about 133% increase that was done. But there are state governments that have not implemented the 70,000, and it's a shame, sorry if I use that word, because we all know what 30,000 can do for us today in Nigeria. It can purchase next to nothing. And by the time you're giving workers 30,000 naira and you expect them to be loyal, you expect them to be faithful, you expect them to come to work diligently, you expect them to pay transport from that 30,000, it's as good as telling them that they're not being employed. Yes, the 70,000 naira increment was a huge plus for states which started the immediate implementations, like states like Rivers, states like Lagos. But when you look at states like Yobe, Borno, Gombe, and even Kaduna, as they say, that are not being able to pay this minimum wage, you now ask yourself that, how do these workers actually expect their staffs to, and even the private sector, because the private sector is also very much encouraged not to pay when they see that the government is not paying. The minimum wage, Yori, is a law. It's a law that was passed by the National Assembly, and you must also give credit to the Senate and the House of Rep that passed that law. In fact, almost immediately, it was record-breaking because they did understand the plight of the common man. And the workers that are earning that 30,000 naira, my heart goes to them on a day like this, because let's even be told, there are restaurants you go to and they give you a bill of 30,000. They even give you a bill of 50,000. And you expect some people to take that home for a month. When we still have challenges with electricity, they still have to buy fuel. One good thing again was that the Labour said that one of the agreements that was reached with the federal government was that if their wages are increased, they will not increase petrol. Petrol went up, but now we can see that petrol has started coming down. So that is also a huge plus. But, you know, purchasing power is still very, very low with even the 70,000 naira. And the states that are not paying, I wonder how they'll come out on a day like this, that is Labor Day, and ask their workers to endure. How long can they continue to endure? 30,000 naira is not even something we can discuss in the present economy, because we're looking at an economy that is predicated on the United States dollars, where a dollar is about 1,600, even though it has stabilized. It has also affected the prices of goods in the market. And it sure cannot be said that those states that are not paying 70,000, we should give them thumbs up on a day like this. No. On a day like this, it should never be thumbs up, it should be thumbs down.
Yeah, well, of course. But the issue is that they are not doing what they are doing. Those states that are not paying this, they are claiming, I think we can take their word at it that they simply can't afford it. It doesn't work for them. We can't afford it. Some states can, but I think they have sent out the word that all states are not equal. And so what do we do? Is there anything we could do there? Oftentimes you hear people talk about salaries and wages, taking an inordinate amount out of the pool of whatever is available. I guess this is what these states are saying. So whereas we are entirely on the side of the workers, we understand the plight of the workers, but then when the states say that this money is not there, maybe I don't know, it's really a big challenge, isn't it? It's a big problem.
I don't agree with the states that say the money is not there. Immediately the president took over on the 29th of May 2023. He removed the subsidy on fuel. And that's what it meant was that there has been an astronomical increase in the allocation to every state from the federal allocation committee. Every month, some states that were getting 5 billion now get 8 billion, 9 billion, 11 billion. Even my state, Delta, there was a time fact came to almost 40-something billion naira. That is from 23 billion that it used to get. There is no state that will say they have not gotten a huge increment from the federal government as a result of the removal of subsidy. Yes, the states can have their challenges. They have infrastructure to provide for the people. They have roads to build, they have schools to build, they have medical centers to build. But you just can't say that because you have all these things, all these commitments, people will go, your workers should go hungry. You expect them to come 5 days in a week. You know that there's an increase already in cost of transportation because of the increase in prices of petrol and prices of services. And the 8,000 naira, I wonder how many people can pay 8,000 naira to and fro from their workplace, which is already about 25,000 naira if you remove Sundays. Or if you remove Saturdays, maybe about 20,000 naira just on transportation. So what you expect the worker to go back with is 10,000 naira. What is he going to do with that? Is it going to go and buy fish or oil? So the fact is that you must prioritize as a state, and you must take your workers into consideration. You just can't, you think out of the box. That is one of the reasons why you see that the National Assembly was very particular about the tax bill. Though it's an executive bill that was introduced by the president, they were very particular about it because they realized that one of the shortfalls that most of the states would complain of in terms of funds that they were not getting, they would get in terms of the tax reform bill when it comes into light. Since we are going to have a joint revenue board and all that, that is not what we are discussing today. And we are going to be able to increase our tax earnings. And it will now make it impossible for you to tax workers who are earning 1 million naira and below. But if you don't pay your workers, 30,000 naira is just 360,000 naira in a year, sorry, Yori. It's not justified. No state has any reason to pay his workers 360,000 naira in a year with the present economy we find ourselves in Nigeria. Yes, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but we must all call a spade a spade. It is, I almost describe it as inhuman, if you ask me my own opinion.
Of course. Of course, yes, you're very right. Especially in the light of inflation. So, inflation has really scattered the market. People can't, buy what they need to buy. They're constantly working out how to get better deals. And you've just explained it. There's transportation, there's trying to buy something for food, and then all of that is even barely doable if you have, we're talking about 70,000, right? We've agreed that 70,000.
Rivers is paying 85. Lagos is paying 85. Some states have even taken it up, and are not paying 70,000. 70,000 is supposed to be the minimum. That's not to say that if you can afford 85, 100,000, you won't pay. I would even urge my state, Delta, to go up to 85,000 naira to just like Rivers and Lagos is doing. Some are paying 71, some are paying 75,000. So it's not even 70,000 in some states, because those states, yes, you can say those states are more buoyant. We agree, they have IGR. But some of these states are lazy, sorry to say. They do not want to raise internally generated revenue. They want to fight to collect VAT. They will collect allocation from the Federation Allocation Committee. And they don't want to think out of the box to pay their workers at least 70,000 naira. There can't be any justification for that. Or rather, you don't even provide the road, pay them the money. Or at least provide schools. Or, cut your coat according to your cloth. Set your priorities right. But when you don't have people who are living, who can afford a decent life, how do you govern them?
Okay. Okay. So we have a caller. Let me. Good morning. Who is calling in?
Pat from PH.
Okay. Good morning, Pat from Port Harcourt. Right? Did you say Pat from Port Harcourt?
Good morning.
Good morning to you, ma'am. Did you?
Good morning.
Please go ahead. Go ahead, please.
All right. Even what I want to contribute is the way things are going in Nigeria. Now, even if they are paying people 100 million in a year, it's not enough. But the government should just see to it. They are trying, but they should put more effort.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a beautiful day, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, Ken Okolubo. Government is trying, but they should try a bit more, is what Pat is saying there. And yes. I guess she's speaking the mind of everybody. Because nobody will say...
Well, that's the truth. Yes. Like I actually said, Yori, I said you must give it to this government. It was a bold step to increase because it took a whole chunk. Don't forget that there had to be a supplementary budget because of the increment from the federal government angle. Because of the increment to 70,000 naira, a supplementary budget was sent to the National Assembly, which was also passed in record time. And that's because they wanted to accommodate the increment. As at 2024, the budget didn't take into consideration that there was going to be an increase to 70,000 naira. That budget was about 28 trillion, if you remember, Yori. That's right. So they had to send a supplementary budget to capture the increment. And you also have to give it to the federal government. They started implementation immediately. Even before they started implementation, they were already paying wage award, if you remember. And that's because they took into consideration what we're just talking about. Yes, you might never be able to have so much. People have to learn to cut their coat according to their cloth now, not size. But there must be some basic amounts you provide for the people that will make sense. But you also have to give it to this government. They provided the student loan scheme. The student loan scheme was another bill that was also passed by the National Assembly, which provided for the students to be able to tap into this loan. And the loans are actually real. People are applying and are getting these loans. So it's also helping those parents who are not able to afford to pay their children's school fees. It's helping them to cushion that effect. And you also have the consumer credit scheme. So there again, you can see that the government is well aware of the hardship that the masses are facing. But is it yet to huru? It's not yet to huru. Yori, we must call it spade.
Indeed.
But why I call out those states is that they should also take a cue from what the federal government is doing in trying to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians. Okay. Realizing that, look, we must have to sacrifice and we must have to think out of the box to be able to provide for our people. You just can't put it only on the door of the federal, on the doorstep of the federal government.
All right.
We have the states, we also have the local governments.
Let me bring on Mr. Olatoye, who's called in from Lekki. Good morning, Mr. Olatoye. Hello, Olatoye.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, good morning to you, sir. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Olatoye Durosimi. I'm calling from Lekki here. Yeah.
Good morning. You're welcome. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. The issue is that any state government that's not paying the right minimum wage is not fair. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it is unfortunate that most governors today are collecting about 300% of what they were collecting before. They have enough money to pay workers, and workers' welfare should be prioritized. because work cannot go on without happiness of the worker working with them. The president is trying his best to ensure that every Nigerian is getting the right wage. If they can do it at the federal, they should be able to do it at the state level, because the money they are collecting for federation accounts has increased 300-fold.
Okay, okay. I get what you're saying. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Durusimi, Olatoye Durusimi, from, well, he's saying, what he's saying in effect, Ken, is that there's hardly an excuse, which is what you also said, that you don't agree that they have so many commitments and therefore they are, some are suffering. They are definitely getting funds. Why are they not prioritizing workers? The whole principle, what Mr. Durusimi said in there was that, look, you start with the worker. Without the worker, you don't have anything.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Their wage, their earnings increased by a whole lot. It might not have been up to 300%, maybe it was close to 300%. Every state, the beautiful thing is that when this FAC allocation is done, it's published. Even the local governments increased. And so if your wage has increased because the subsidy has been removed, why do you just try to hide under the fact that you say you cannot pay? Now, the federal government is not saying they have to start borrowing you money the way Buhari's government was borrowing the state's money to pay. In fact, they were borrowing the money to pay 30,000. Well, the argument can be that, well, dollar was 360 naira at then, not now that dollar is 1,500 or 1,600. Yes, that can be an argument that the states can put forward. But the same dollar that has increased to 1,600 give you an opportunity to now have about, let's say, I stand with what he said, about 300% increase. So do you now justify the fact that you cannot pay 70,000 naira to your workers? It's not something you can justify. And we have been on this for over a year. When was this wage increase done? It was done about a year ago. Remember the negotiations that went back and forth, the strikes that took place before they arrived at this 70,000 naira. And the federal government has kept to their agreement. And the federal government is also making an effort to see that they reduce this suffering by providing so many avenues that can, help the workers. Free train services, like, sometimes free bus services. It's not enough yet, but they've talked about the LNG buses coming. They realize that there are so many ways that they have to go through it so that even people will not have to be so dependent on petrol. While we do not say the electricity has helped, because people also have to buy fuel for, I better pass my neighbor's generator, to also charge their phones and to have light at least for the night. It's not been helpful at all. But there's also a concerted effort to see that this issue of Band A, Band B, Band C, Band D is eliminated. And there can be a generation for, an improvement in electricity, which is a very serious issue. If we can have electricity, really, that's another way we can also free up funds. And people cannot be under pressure.
Let me see.
There are so many other ways you can look at it. But
I beg your pardon.
The states cannot justify.
Okay, sorry, Ken. I beg your pardon for interrupting. Mazeo Korafo, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. You're the good boy I guess in the studio. Honestly speaking, happy Workers' Day.
Happy Workers' Day.
Happy Workers' Day to you, Sayuri, and our guests in the studio.
I wish you the same.
Thank God today is Workers' Day, and according to Catholic doctrine, today is St. Joseph's Day, St. Joseph the Worker. At least he did his job as a carpenter for the
So St. Joseph is the patron saint.
For the minimum wage, and my brother is talking, what he said on the screen, it's very, very disheartening that in a situation like this. Now you ask yourself, every month, the accountants from each state, will rush to Abuja and collect money. What are they doing with it? You see, federal government that do. That is why what the governors are doing, all the states are doing, is making the people, the employees, start doubting the federal government when they do. Now, what the state supposed to do is this: one, as far as you are a governor, you have 4 years and another 4 years. But it is not a must that you must finish all the infrastructural facilities within that 4 years. It's not possible. Another regime is coming. Now, let's assume, for example, the governor comes and finish all the roads, all the dams in the state. Now, the next coming government, or after this, what are they going to do? So that is why you should say the governor, 80% systematically, system. So when another regime comes, they continue from where you stop. That's what it's about continuity. So each governor should try as much as possible and pay the minimum wage. Honestly speaking, because if you take well, if you go to statistics are showing that cost of things in terms of housing, because of the materials in buildings, continue increasing. Workers are not supposed to. The worst hit is the private sector. Now, somebody is going and paying 10,000 or 10,000 and is spending 7,000 naira as transport. How much is left for him to eat in the afternoon and balance that? How? You say, and the irony also that this story has been they'll go to their own country and bring people to it and bring them into the system. Living in Nigeria, which Nigerian Labour Congress is supposed to look into, because the foreigners that companies that dominate that, they are creating more problems, creating more unemployment in Nigeria. They are bringing in their people to live in Nigeria. So now, according to the law, according to the state law, that the federal agency that the minimum work at least to people from that locality. But they are not doing it. They will go and bring somebody from elsewhere. It is not good, honestly. Nigerian Labour Congress, at least it serves as this. Monitor all these organizations. It will help us. Now, ask ourselves, federal agencies that exist. Do you know that some people are sick of it, that they have not been paid the minimum wage? Investigate this. Federal agencies, which is very, very wrong. The Director General said, we are going to form a committee to sit down and decide and take stock of what they are generating, and they will start implementing. Continue promising the workers. And look at some people, somebody will go on leave and you come back, no leave allowance. Somebody is working and you are retiring in 3 months. You are still coming to the office, going for a course. What are you going for a course for? You have 3 months to leave the organization. You are still spending to go for a course. Does it make sense? It doesn't make that is why continuity in the federal agency is still dangling. Honestly speaking, NUC, whether the NUC or TUC, or they should do the needful. Either. Look at Nigerian university. I think thank God it's that the federal universities, where the vice chancellors collected extra money from what the federal government has had the made for the students. Collected extra money. Honestly, I will dismiss all those vice chancellors from those universities. This is purely cheating. It's no good. The child has been you came as the best. Added another money for what? Compounding for making that achieve what the federal government, the policy brought out, it's not working. But how can the vice chancellor do that? Honestly speaking, government should investigate that very thing together. So let me give you another opportunity to speak down.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mazio Okoroa, for calling in. Okay, so there you have it, Ken. Somebody saying that just like you had said at the top, that we just, and I think Pat also called in to say, look, government is trying, but they still have to try some more. They still have to try a bit more. If we're hearing that this minimum wage cannot be paid, it's not acceptable, really. It's not acceptable.
Oh, yes. I think Mazio Korafo is always a regular on your program. Has turned into... Perhaps he's more of an analyst anymore than a calling guest, because he has encapsulated the true feelings of what the situation is. Like I said, it is not yet Uhuru, and I know President Bola Ahmed Tinubu knows it is not Uhuru at all yet. But you see, when we say there's light at the end of the tunnel, the indices clearly shows that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And the impact is already being felt. If you go to the market, the prices of goods have reduced. You know, after the rebasing by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, inflation came from 34 to 24%. But if you look at the consumer price index, Yori, you will see that the prices of maybe rice has gone down, prices of some basic items that you used to buy, even drugs. I buy inhaler, I'm asthmatic. I realize that even Ventolin inhaler has dropped from the high price it was to a lower price by the time I was buying it. But it is not yet where we expect it to get. That is exactly what the masses are saying. They still cannot feel the relief as they should have expected. But is there a major shift? There is a major shift. Mm-hmm. And if you realize that we're coming from where we were printing currency through ways and means in trillions, which was more like just printing your naira and not trading with any other country to earn funds, and paying back those funds from almost a 98% using to pay to service those funds to a drop to like 65%. In economics, that's a huge plus. But if you look at the IMF prediction, you get scared at what our GDP is going to be, you look at the projections in front, the Nigerian worker has every right to be a bit worried. And so it also makes it more difficult when you look at the states who now say that, look, we cannot pay this minimum wage. Do you understand? It is even a huge plus that the Nigerian Labour Congress has not shut down the workforce in those states completely and completely starves them of workers. But I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. The law that was made is a law that is binding on everybody in Nigeria. The National Assembly did not make that law, which the president assented to for just the civil servants. It was also made for the private sector. So the states cannot say that law is not binding. So to me, I think they're also breaking the law because it was an act of the National Assembly that was signed into law. Okay. So the federal government must also have to call out the state governments that are not paying this minimum wage. They cannot also say we can't interfere, because that again is also affecting the country, because what happens in one state affects another state. But I think today is May Day. Maybe some of the states will borrow a new leaf from today and maybe announce that they will maybe start implementing the payment, or they can also backdate that payment.
Okay. Let me just take a quick break. I'll be right back. Thank you, Ken. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. And Reverend Dominic is on the line. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Chief Yori. Good morning to my friend, Okolibo.
Yes.
Yori, let me be frank to you.
Morning, Dominic.
Labour is not right in their thinking. When we have a labor that's well articulated, they shouldn't talk about minimum wage, Yori. Yori, if they keep pushing for minimum wage, 1 million naira cannot take care of Nigerian economy's challenges. I'm in Nigeria. I don't know where they buy and sell. I'm a Nigerian. If I have 200,000 naira in my household every week, it wouldn't make sense to me. Honestly, what I eat is rice and beans. What Labour is supposed to talk about is about to put our economy in the right footing. Labour is not supposed to go to market because of minimum wage. How much will we pay? 70,000 naira in quotes is a big money. But because of the economic challenges, transportation, fuel, this and that, it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. I bought MTN 1,000 naira this morning to talk to you. Now, before I could just talk to somebody and talk to you, 1,000 naira is over because I've increased the tariff. Where do you start? Ask my friend your colleague. I use a Highlander vehicle. The tank is 70 liters. How much is 70,000 naira? Which is a minimum wage is 70,000 naira of my tank if I want to fill it. So this shop has not minimum wage, honestly. The Labour should sit down with the government and they have to retune our economy. Because if we pay 200,000 naira, it won't make any sense. It's about how it looks like. I know how it's done.
Yeah.
Economy is hard. 70,000 naira for is no money. But we can't and know what to do. That's why I decided. Every time we talk about achievements, my friend sending them, they have given state government more money. How would it on earth that the state government cannot pay minimum wage if the state government has given them more money via subsidy removal? That's why some of us not support subsidy removal. Subsidy is taking money from another corrupt person to give it another corrupt entity. Sorry to use that word. And this is what we are today. States are making more money. They're not paying minimum wage. What is the excuse? But I understand the challenges. We don't need to talk about minimum wage, Shori. The economy is terrible. We need to talk about how to make the economy work. So 70,000 naira can make sense.
But Reverend,
yes.
You know, Ken was pointing out that there are states that actually go above the minimum wage. Yes, we are complaining about those that are not, being up and doing. But some states, actually are paying above the minimum wage. Some go as far as maybe 100.
Yes, same thing. I told those states, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Even though the states are paying 85, like my state added 10,000. I don't know what I paid. But 5,000 naira, you take a company. My stock is 50 liters, 70,000 naira. What is 85,000? Lagos is paying about or 90, I don't know. But 90,000 in place economy. But if you have a good economy, where schools are charging less, where transportation is less, where we can buy what we used to buy for beans, 2,000 naira, feed ourselves, then this money makes sense. What I'm trying to say, with 150,000 naira minimum wage, with the economy, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
I know you, Chief Yore, I know your house. I know where you live. Could 150,000 make sense to you? So no. It's not about being rich. It's about feeding yourself. Can 150,000 feed a family of 3? No. We must go back to joint board. NLC and the government, if they want to protest, it's not about minimum wage. Let them protest about a way to make Nigerian economy work. If Nigerian economy works, before 10,000 naira could make sense. I work in textile mill. When I work in textile mill in 80s, before I went to school, what we earn is 1 naira 20 kobo. And 1 naira 20 kobo then in 80s was a big money. The minimum wage there was 100 naira, I think. 100 naira then was a big money. But could you compare 70,000 naira today with 100 naira in 1980? No, because the economy is running well, it's cheap. So what I'm trying to say is that labor should stop about minimum wage and draw the government's attention to the economy we have. That because it's not working. That is gospel truth. I'm not in government. My friend Okolibo there has everything. He has everything with press and that as a senior president aide.
All right then. Well, thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. Well, Ken, there you are. It's up to you. It's over to you. He alluded to the fact that we feel these pains differently from each other. But I know that you've been with the people. You feel the pains of the people. You know, I'm not here as your spokesman, but I know that you have your feet firmly planted on the ground. Or is there anything to what Reverend Dominic is saying, that in the rarefied atmosphere that you people operate, you can't understand our situation? He is saying, don't go on about minimum wage. Please let the economy work.
Of course. You see, everything I've been saying, I've been alluding to the economy working. That's why I talked of the consumer price index. I talked of the inflation. Talked of the fact that it was 24%. It came to 23%. But what Reverend Dominic must understand is that a law has been made by the National Assembly that everybody should earn nothing less than 70,000 naira, and those states are flouting the laws. That's the truth. Yes, you're saying the labor people should not be concerned about minimum wage. Why will they not be concerned when they are taking 30,000 naira home? They should think out of the box. That's what Reverend Dominic is trying to say. They should also think of how they can make alternative means and cut their quota according to their cloth. But let them first of all pay them that 70,000 naira that the law of the land has said that they should be paid.
I hear you.
And start thinking out of the box.
Yeah, I hear you. But where Dominic might be coming from is like, look, he alluded to the way, long gone times when 1 naira 50 was a lot of money, well, 1 naira 20 was a lot of money. So it's a function of what that was the nature of that economy then. Of course, things have to be adjusted for inflation. I think he was alluding to, if you don't concentrate on for instance, if you just say 70,000 naira and that's the be all and end all, well, 70,000 naira won't do very much in the market of the economy that we have at the moment. But if somehow value were to change today, then 80,000, 100,000 naira could actually do a lot only if the economy made sense.
That's exactly what I said. That's why I said if there is light, that's the economy. If we don't get it right, if the federal government does not get it right to the light situation, all the gains of Tinubu's government might not be felt. It is one sector that it's very paramount to the success of this regime, and the government also knows that fact. We can't say it is okay with the light sector. If we have light, we will not spend so much money on even generators or diesel or petrol.
But isn't that a work in progress? We're not where we used to be.
It's a work in progress. That is why
we're not where we used to be.
Reverend Dominic should understand that the work in progress is such that we use the word that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So it is a gradual thing that we must face, that this president must also be given that credit. It was a very bold step he took, which the military didn't take. No military administration took the bold step that Tinubu took, removing subsidy.
And now
Obasanjo didn't even do it. Yar'Adua didn't do it. Jonathan didn't do it. Buhari didn't do it. And that's why you see President Tinubu might be very unpopular today, but eventually I'm sure he'll be vindicated.
You think?
Unpopular in the sense that a leader takes unpopular decisions when he can see what is at the end and he can see the doomsday that is in front.
Okay.
The subsidy thing was a decision that somebody had to take. And even when Buhari was leaving, Buhari only provided for subsidy up until 30th of June 2023, meaning that there was nothing provided for Tinubu to even pay the subsidy. Why didn't Buhari do that a year before he left?
Okay. But even as you say, popular, not popular, I don't know. I suppose, well, yeah, he probably is not popular in certain sectors, but then there are other sectors that are a bit more understanding of the complexity of the issues, and they, just like you are saying.
Oh, yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
if eventually, you see, when presidents take such decisions, people do not understand. It's painful. Somebody will say, well, I was buying rice at 8,000 naira during Jonathan. I was buying it at 11,000. Now I'm buying it at 100,000. I'm buying it at 85,000. So you can see there's an astronomical difference. But what I'm trying to say is that when eventually they now see the gains of why that unpopular decision, as they term it, was taken, then they can now justify. Because you see, we couldn't have continued on the way we were going. That is the honest
Which was the
truth.
point that the president made.
It was
unsustainable
of generations that were unborn.
It was an unsustainable situation. It had to be, addressed with boldness. It was done. Everybody has been commending.
He took a leader with a lot of boldness, because if he was thinking of the fact that he wanted a second term in office, some would never take it. They will wait until second tenure. He might likely have rushed a supplementary budget and provided for subsidy, and maybe went the way of printing again and on the area of ways and means. And you can imagine what would have been, the situation would have been right now as a country. God forbid that would turn into Venezuela, the situation they had us at one time.
Well, exactly. And this is probably part of what Labour, the leaders in Labour, probably need to be a bit more sympathetic about. One of the things that they've put out there, that the struggles that we face as workers and as citizens are immense, from neoliberal economic policies that impoverish workers to relentless attacks on labor rights. This is Labour speaking, of course. So that last bit there, yeah, I'll be surprised if Labour didn't add it in there, because Labour does see its job as that of, looking out for the interest of the workers, even though there have been those who have criticized Labour itself, that, wait a minute, Labour, you don't turn yourself into opposition. There are those who, that, look, if the way you're going, you come and walk in our shoes. And what would you do differently? I think we've passed all those stages now, but Joe Ajaero and his colleagues are looking at it. It's not yet Uhuru, as you have been saying, and I suppose he just has to keep on looking out for, the workers. As that lady, Pat, called in and said, yeah, we recognize, as you have been saying, that they are trying, but the try, nor reach. It's not making the difference that the Nigerian worker would wish. Have you heard about the price of eggs nowadays? I don't know how many people are still eating eggs, though. So it's in those small areas that people now come to understand that we are in a dire situation that can only get better. But I suppose there's this African saying that you can't whip a child and say that he should not be crying now. He will cry. And I guess that's what we're dealing with right now. Well, we're actually, running out of time. In past Labour days, we've actually shown some of the scenarios at the centers where you have workers, the speeches. All of that will come later on in our, subsequent broadcasts. But for now, it's, you know, not yet Uhuru. I guess that's the most important thing, and that's the thing that you brought to the program, that work is going, it's an ongoing process. We're not quite where we want to be, and we just have to keep on at it. The economy has to work. That's Reverend Dominic's contribution. This economy, the way it is, even if you were to give me, I think some people have alluded to it, give me 100,000, give me 500,000. If the economy is not fixed, God forbid, you might have a situation where 500,000 is doing no more than, you know, just taking care of the feeding, depending on the size of the household. So these are the challenges that we are facing. So it's not yet Uhuru. I'll borrow your phrase. It's not yet Uhuru. We're still working at it. I think they're trying to say something to me. No? Well, that's a place that we can actually let go of it here. I want to thank you very much, Ken, for coming in.
Thank you very much. Your closing statement was just apt for a day like this. That's why I didn't want to contribute anymore.
Thank you very much. You know, indeed, happy Labor Day.
Thank you for having me.
We still have to say it. Happy Labor Day. Okay, so that's our program. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.